It's a random Tuesday night. You just told your 5-year-old they can't have a second cookie or the iPad, or maybe you just asked them to put on their shoes. In response, they plant their feet, look you dead in the eye, and scream, "I hate you." That phrase hits you right in the sternum. Your kitchen goes entirely quiet, and you get that sensation in your chest where it feels hot and hollow at the exact same time. In that split second, most of us make an immediate, invisible assumption. We look at the screaming child in front of us and assume we are dealing with a rational miniature adult, a tiny debater who carefully selected those specific words to inflict maximum pain. Applying our standard logical responses to a brain that has gone offline creates the exact friction needed to turn a simple no into a full-scale explosion. Looking at this flowchart, we can view a tantrum as a behavioral system. The parent's input directly dictates the child's output. The first failed input is defending. You hear, "I hate you," and your tired adult brain argues back, "After everything I do for you." Trying to use logic here creates a scenario where both brains are flooded with stress hormones. Now there are 2 overloaded nervous systems in the kitchen, and nobody is steering the ship. The second failed input is matching. You drop your voice into that low, dangerous tone and meet their anger with harsh, authoritarian discipline. The crying might stop in front of you, but while this forces outward compliance, it simply drives the emotional storm underground. The child stays highly dysregulated. They just learn to hide it. The third and arguably most dangerous input is caving. The words cut so deep that you just want the screaming to stop, so you give them the second cookie. This completely bypasses the boundary you were trying to set in the first place. Curious, observant tone. What the child learns in that moment is that a magic spell actually exists. They run the experiment, say the meanest thing they can think of, and watch a no transform into a yes. These 3 natural instincts never resolve the underlying emotional storm. They either bury the anxiety out of sight, or they teach the child to weaponize those nuclear words for the very next time you tell them no. To actually fix the loop, we have to stop looking at the child's behavior and start looking at their internal biology. We need to know what is physically happening inside their head when a boundary suddenly blocks something they want. Looking at this brain cross-section, the prefrontal cortex, the planning center, shuts down when a child is flooded. The thinking brain goes offline. In its place, the amygdala lights up. Operating from this panicked state, language collapses into whatever is loud and large. The phrase, "I hate you," represents the child reaching for a massive hammer because it is the only tool they have to manage a feeling that is completely overwhelming them. Understanding this biology totally changes your role in the kitchen. You don't have a villain attacking you. You have a drowning swimmer begging a lifeguard to pull them out of their own flooded nervous system. And lifeguards do not get into screaming matches with the swimmer. They get into the water. Getting into the water means running a biological reboot sequence. There are 3 precise moves you can execute in a single breath to power down the meltdown. Move 1 is to name the feeling, out loud, in plain words. You are so mad right now. You really wanted that cookie. Simply stating the emotion aloud acts as a structural bridge. It lets the child feel seen, which actually allows that offline prefrontal cortex to start booting back up. Move 2 is hold the limit. You become a calm, boring, unmovable wall. The cookie is staying in the cupboard. You do not explain it 11 times. You do not justify your reasoning. Any extra words just add useless noise to an already flooded system. The limit has to stay firm, especially when they are crying. Children push against boundaries because they are panicked and need to confirm the boundary is still there. Holding the limit proves to them that the world still has structure and that the adults are actually still in charge. Move 3 is offer connection. I am right here when you are ready. You stay physically present without demanding a hug they don't want. You prove that the most hurtful words they could summon were not powerful enough to break your attachment to them. Once you say those 3 things, you are angry, the cookie stays put, I'm right here, you stop talking. You sit on the floor, you embrace the silence, and you let them process the boundary without adding a single extra syllable. Executing this exact sequence allows the combative standoff to collapse. The child realizes the wall is real, but they also realize they are safe. The crying shifts from angry to sad, their body deflates, and a fight turns into a physical release of emotion. Of course, you are an exhausted human being. Eventually, you will hold a limit perfectly for 9 minutes, and on the 10th minute, you will snap and say something you regret. This is an expected part of the system. A clean apology after a failure reinforces the protocol by showing that adults take responsibility for their mistakes. To see why this matters, we have to pull back from that single tantrum on the kitchen floor and fast forward 10 or 20 years into the future. Looking at this timeline, a clear pattern emerges. The parenting style that predicts the calmest, most regulated teenagers combines deep warmth with consistent limits. Soft on the child, steady on the rule. Every limit held with calm consistency builds the secure internal voice the child will use to navigate the most difficult days of their adult life. They learn that the biggest words they have cannot make you leave.